Call of Duty is better than Halo. And before you get mad at me and run down to the comment sections, at least subscribe to me first. Like, come on, man. In all seriousness though, let me at least explain why I think COD is better than Halo. And as everyone watching this video probably already knows, over the past few years, Call of Duty has been absolutely dominating and outperforming Halo in literally every single way that matters. It has more players, it's more hyped up, there's more stuff coming out, there's better content, more content all coming out, better dev support, and just people are talking about it more. Overall, it's just been performing better. But the only metric that really matters, and the one that we're going to be talking about a lot today, is concurrent player count. And also, if you can't tell by now, that's right, I am not here to argue about these small gameplay differences and which game is more fun and because of which game you has better movement or which game has better gunplay because one you rely on bloom, one you rely on recoil. That's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today I am talking about these games as what they should be, as these mega IPs, these blockbuster franchises they are, and which one is performing better and why it is doing that. So back to what I was saying is that we are going to be focusing pretty much only on the concurrent player count when we talks in terms of success of these two IPs. And the reason that we're only talking about concurrent player count is because it is quite literally the only stat that matters here. It's what the devs care about because it's what makes them money, which is the goal of making a video game. It is to make money and that is it. And also, it's what the internet cares about. Like, you can find so many Twitter threads about people calling X game a dead game or Y game a good game because it has X amount of players. And honestly, it's just what people care about, and nothing else really matters when we're talking about video games and their success as a whole. And to be illustrating the picture of how much better Call of Duty is doing than Halo, we're going to be using Steam charts. And again, don't go yell at me before I finish explaining, because usually when somebody pulls up Steam charts and argument about video games, their argument can just be thrown out the window automatically because it's usually based on some form of like false logic or like backwards thinking that is just doesn't work. But the reason we're using it here is because both games are extremely comparable when we just look at Steam, because both games have much larger player bases on consoles than they do on PC. So it's kind of even that we're looking at just a small fraction of the player base for each game when we look at Steam charts. I'll be putting the Steam charts down below while I talk about this, but as you can see from what I am showing you, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is the most recent title, versus Halo Infinite, is absolutely blowing Halo Infinite out of the water in terms of Steam charts. And also, again, I want to just reiterate that console player bases are much, much larger for these video games. For Halo, they have Xbox, that's their biggest platform. For Call of Duty, I think PlayStation is their biggest platform, but they also have their Xbox player base. Call of Duty has more platforms and is performing better on each of those platforms than Halo, and just has more talk about it in general on the internet. And another point I really want to make here is that the Steam charts is all of the PC community for Halo Infinite, right? But when we're talking about Call of Duty, people can also get the game through Battle.net, which means that we're also only seeing a fraction of the PC player base when we look at Steam charts for Call of Duty. And I just think that's insane how drastically different these numbers are between Call of Duty and Halo, even when we're just looking at PC. And again, as you can see, COD is doing almost 22 times better than Halo is. And that is insane. Halo's peak is just kind of a normal day for Call of Duty, which is such a drastic difference between these two of the biggest IPs in video game history. And the question that I always ask whenever I see these numbers and see just how much better COD is doing just overall is just, how did it get this way? What did Call of Duty do that was so different from Halo that made it so much better in terms of performance, in terms of making money and all this stuff, and in terms of player retention? And I could come up with three main reasons for this. The first one of these reasons is just keeping up with modern interest of the casual gamer. Call of Duty has always just chased trend after trend after trend. We could see this with like Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, where they went and did future shooters. And then they also returned to boots on the ground with like World War II, even though it was a very bad game. The fact of the matter is they still chased these trends and went after what people were into every single year. They even delved into hero shooters with Black Ops 4, right? So They also did different game modes. Like they have a Warzone, which is a battle royale. Halo still doesn't have a battle royale, which I still think is a big fumble overall. I'm not a battle royale fan, but I think if Halo wanted to succeed long term with Halo Infinite, I think they should have had a battle royale. Also, Call of Duty has DMZ, which is their take on the extraction shooter, which is one of the biggest gaming trends as of late. And even the basics, like just having a search and destroy mode in the game, is something that Call of Duty always has and is always chasing after that next high for the casual gamer. But Halo as a franchise and as an IP has always seemed kind of afraid to do that. They've always stuck to the basics of it being a arena shooter, and they just seem scared to try anything new. And I think this stems a large part in from a portion of their audience just being old Halo purists, like sprinting and sliding and other modern like movement mechanics or any mechanics for that matter shouldn't be such a controversial thing to put in a video game. And a part of what you get from this is you just get the same modes, just game after game, where the main difference is just the sandbox and not the base game itself. And it always feels like you're playing the same thing. Call of Duty, each game feels drastically different from the last, barring the like last three versions of it. But like the jump from a future COD to a boots on the ground COD is always just a drastic change. And when you go Halo from Halo, you still are playing Halo, and you can feel that. Usually when big franchises like this go from game to game, they want to change a lot and make it feel like a very new and fresh experience. Like when Call of Duty went from Infinite Warfare over to World War II. It went from future shooter to boots on the ground, and it was a very different change, but it was still Call of Duty. And that's what these game companies try to do with every new game. They want to thread that needle and make try to draw in as many new players as they can, while also making their old players, their diehard fans, as happy as they possibly can. But it seems like instead of threading a needle and finding a happy medium, Halo Infinite kind of just threaded the needle and found a medium of just absolute agony for the player. And what I mean by this, instead of making as many people happy as possible, instead Halo made as many people upset as possible. The casual player or the non Halo fans kind of just look at Halo Infinite and the updates they push, and they're just like, it's just more of the same. I'm not going to go play that. I'd rather go play Apex or something like that. And then you have the actual fans of Halo who want to see the game grow. They see these updates for Halo Infinite and they're just like, it's not enough. This isn't enough content to keep me interested. I'm still playing the game, but I'm not interested. I'm bored. I want more from this game and more from these devs and the support, right? And then you also have the purists of old Halo who just want everything to go back to the way it was and no sprinting, no slide. And I just think that's a really funny dynamic that Halo has accidentally struck. And it sucks for them, honestly, it does. The second biggest difference between Call of Duty and Halo that I think makes COD just so much more successful is the release cycles. COD has a yearly release cycle, and Halo just kind of releases whenever they feel like it's time for a new game. And of course, there are positives and negatives for both sides, but the yearly release cycle for Call of Duty just seems to be performing way better at capturing the masses and keeping them interested as time goes on, way better than Halo's release cycle does. And there's a reason that the COD cycle is such a talked about thing, because people get a new game, they like it. Then after a while, they start to not like it anymore. They get frustrated with it. Then they get tired of it and they stop playing it so much. Then a new game gets announced and they get super excited for it. And as the release date for that new game comes near, they start seeing the old game in rose tinted glasses and get super excited about the old game. That makes them more excited about the new game. And it just builds this hype train that is just unstoppable and captures the masses, and it's just insane. And this cycle does a way better job at just keeping people happy and interested for as long as possible, as there seems to be no end in sight for Call of Duty. And the Halo cycle works extremely differently. It generates much more hype for a new game, because I remember when Halo Infinite was announced and when it was about to come out, I was way more excited for that game than I was for any Call of Duty. But it leaves players with one product for a much longer period of time. So when it comes to this cycle, the product has to be absolutely amazing. Also, just gamers are crybabies, and if you leave them with one game for too long, they're just going to complain about every single minute detail about it. And you can see that by looking at any YouTuber, including me. The last point I want to make about why Call of Duty is just a better franchise than Halo and just does a much better job at keeping its players happy, even though a lot of players are angry at both franchises, is that Call of Duty and Activision and all the 8 dev studios they have working on it are just much better suited for the modern gaming landscape. And what I mean by this is, of course, live service games. Because every single AAA multiplayer shooter game is a live service game, and that's just the way it is nowadays. And I don't even really think I have to drive this point home that much for you. You can just literally look at the updates and the seasonal content that each game puts out and just see how much better COD is at it than Halo is. There's just more updates with better content and more content that keeps the players interested for longer. And Halo just doesn't have that. I remember when the new Halo Infinite season came out, I think it was literally season 2 of Halo Infinite, and every single thing I saw about that online were the players just wishing it was more, wishing there was more content, wishing like you can't do that for your major seasonal update. And then one last thing, I have to mention this. The Halo TV show could have absolutely revived Halo Infinite the same way that the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime just revived Cyberpunk 2077. The Halo TV show could have done that for Halo, but they fumbled it so bad. Like, oh, dude, I didn't even watch the show, but I saw the clips of it and I was mad. I'm not even that big of a Halo fan. But the point is, with all of the points that I made in this video combined, I hope that you can see that as a franchise, Call of Duty has done a significantly better job at keeping the general public interested and at least slightly happy and invested in playing their games. And that's why I think Halo has fallen behind so drastically. And there are even more reasons surrounding like the gameplay and the mechanics of the game that help drawing in the masses. And I could honestly make a whole other video about it, but that's for another day. But that's where I'm going to leave it off for today. Thank you very much for watching. It really does mean a lot. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment about what you think Halo could have done better, because I know there's a ton of things that Halo could have done better as of late. And also, there is a link down in the description. Make sure you click on that and go find me everywhere I push content. Thank you very much for watching again. It does mean a lot. GG's and goodbye.